This next set, I wanted to tell you, I call the organist as social worker, because it's where I got myself into situations where I was not properly trained by my organ teachers to handle. I was in a place in life where I was working in a million part-time jobs and not making enough money, and I didn't have a car, and I didn't have health insurance. It's kind of like where I am right now. And I got a phone call one day out of the blue from this guy who said, "Hi, I'm so-and-so, I'm the senior pastor of this church in downtown, and we want you to be our music director. We can offer you this nice salary, and we'll also pay for health insurance for your family, and we heard you were in need of a car, and so we also can offer you a car. We don't want you to get too excited because it's an older vehicle. It's about 10 years old, but it is a BMW 735 IL." And I was like, okay, yes, all right, so sign me up. So I became the music director of that church and got the Beamer out of it. And whenever you're working for a church in the South, much more so than in Nebraska, and especially a downtown church, there's a lot more visibility of homeless people. And we kept a pantry at that church, so homeless people would come in all the time and get food. And sometimes if the clergy weren't there, I would get them the bag of food for them, but I always had a rule that you had to listen to me play organ for a while before I give you food. I wasn't trying to be mean or anything. It was just like, I felt like if anybody could use a moment of beauty in their life, it would be a homeless person. So I would always bring them in. And so I became friends with this man named Alvin, who would come in and listen to me practice the organ for sometimes 20 or 30 minutes. One day he was in there and he had already gotten his food from the pantry, and he said, "Hey Kurt, can you do me a favor?" And I said, "Sure, what do you need?" And Alvin wasn't actually homeless, but he could pass for homeless because he was not very clean. He was dirty, and he also had this wound that I won't even want to talk to you about. It was gross. But he said, I know these other churches that will give out food, but they're about 5 miles away, and it would take me all day to walk there, and will you run me down to these other churches and pick up food and then take me back to where I stay," which he lived in a ghetto. And I had some time, so I said, "Sure." So I said, as long as you don't mind riding in a BMW. And so we got in the BMW, and we drive down to this church, and I go in with him, and I sit down in a chair, and Alvin goes and talks to the receptionist, and she goes away for a few minutes, and then she comes back, and she gives Alvin his groceries. And then she walks up to me with a bag of groceries, and goes to hand me a bag of groceries. And I went, I started to say, no, it's okay, I don't need them, I was just giving Alvin a ride, but I got out about, no, and she interrupted me and said, "It's okay, dear, you really look like you could use it." And I had one of these moments that the Gestalt School of Psychology would call an aha moment. I look down at myself, and of course I'm wearing sandals, and my socks don't match, and I've got like these blue jeans on that have a rip in them, and I've got like this lime green shirt on that has a coffee stain. And my hair is doing whatever my hair does, and I was like, this is what Jennifer always means when she says, I hadn't shaved in like 3 days, and I'm like, this is what Jennifer always means when she says that I look like a homeless man. And when she says, you have a European sense of personal hygiene. And so, what do I do? She goes, no, you really look like you could use it. And I went, Thank you very much. And I don't know what she thought, because then, her 2 homeless guys walk out of the church and walk into, and there was a big window there, so they watched us, hop into the nice Beamer. My favorite, by far, interaction with a homeless person in that church, though, was with Joseph. Joseph was full-on homeless. He wasn't, he had the beard and all of the straggly gray hair and dirty clothes and all of that. And Joseph came around at least once a week to get groceries. But there were rules, so that they only came by during the day. Like at night, you couldn't get food and stuff like that. So I was kind of surprised. I went out of the choir rehearsal one night, and there was Joseph sitting by the door outside the church. And I was like, "Oh, what are you doing here, Joseph?" And he said, I got a serious problem. I need to talk to a pastor." And I said, "Well, you can't get food now. You have to come back tomorrow." And he said, "I got a serious problem. I need to talk to Pastor Rod. I got a serious problem." And I said, I was trying to be helpful again. So I said, "Why don't you tell me what your problem is, and I'll see if I can help you with it." And he says, "All right, I've been in jail. I've been out at the Valkenburg jail out on the road, and I just got out after 3 weeks in, and I needed a ride back. And so I started hitching a ride with this man, and I got into his car, and he started some hanky-panky in the car, and he put something up my butt, and it was something hard, like a marble or something, and it's still there. And I keep going, but it won't come out. So I've got a serious problem. And I quickly realized that my training as an organist prepared me for a situation like this. I said, "Hang on, I'll go get a pastor." And I dashed upstairs and I found one of the clergy. And I said, "Hey, Joseph's outside." And she's like, "Tell him he has to come back tomorrow for food." And I'm like, "No, you gotta get it." So I told her the whole thing. And by the time I got finished, she was standing there like this, kind of like. And then she goes, "What entrance is he at?" And I said, "He's outside the doors of the east entrance." And she said, "I'm going out the west entrance. You can go back out and tell him that if he needs help with this, he can walk across the bridge and go to the hospital." And then, okay. So I went back out to Joseph, and I'm like, "Joseph, there's nobody there that can help you, and we can't help you with this problem. You got to go across the bridge to the hospital." To which, as you might expect, he replied to me exactly, "But I got a serious problem, and I got something. I keep going, but it won't come out, and there's something hard in there, like a marble or something, and I got a serious problem." And I said, "You have to go across the bridge to the hospital if you want help with this." At which point he said, "But I got a serious problem, and I really need you to help me with this." At that point, he said, "I don't know exactly what it is that you're asking me to do, but I'm not willing to do it, so you have to go to the hospital if you want help with that." And I left him there. And the great thing about that church was that the clergy had a sense of humor, because I came in the next day and the secretary said, "Oh, something in your box, Kurt." And I went. There was a card in my box, and I opened it up, and it said, "I'm waiting for you in the library. I've got a serious problem." It was signed Joseph, and underneath the card, as I moved it to the side, there was a latex glove and a tube of KY gel that the pastors had all bought for me. So,